All right, everybody. So we're putting a stereo system, a pretty big stereo system, and the old RZR here. And I already mounted one of the speakers, but this is pretty much all stuff from Pile, and just as kind of like a little heads up, like if this turns out not to be all that good of stuff, I can always be like, God, this stereo is such a pile. Ha ha. Sorry, my voice is probably kind of a little weird too, because it is still smoky here as of the time of this video because of the super crazy car fire. So yeah, I've been breathing a lot of smoke for about the last 3 weeks, so it's not very fun. Anyways, comes with this whole stereo system came with 4 of these cage mount 6.5-inch speakers in these tubes. The other 2 are in here, and the one is back there already mounted on the cage. Now I'm not 100% sure where I'm going to mount all of this stuff yet, but I got a lot of cool stuff. As you can see, I got some weather stripping. I got these pods to mount on the roof for these 4 speakers that didn't come inside cage mount stuff. Got a wiring kit, wire. I've got a marine grade like deck mount thing. Just all the stuff I need. It's all marine grade. It all can get wet. I'm not gonna do like a full show you exactly what I'm doing 100% of the time, but I'm gonna like do a little bit, show you guys what I've done, and then do a little bit more and show you guys what I've done. But yeah, MTX for a 5-speaker setup, MTX wants like $1,600 or something like that, or $1,400 and then $200 to install it or something. I've heard that. I sat in a RZR with that at Dune Fest, and $1,600 just seemed like just crazy, outrageously high for me. So I got all of this stuff for 600 bucks. So that'd be $1,000 savings. I'm gonna do it myself, and I'm gonna see how this compares to that MTX stereo that I actually sat in a RZR and listened to. All right, well, I'm gonna get on it. I'm gonna start mounting the other 3 cage mount speakers. I'm not 100% sure where I'm gonna put them yet, but I'll figure it out and then show everybody. All right, let's get it done. All right, everybody. So I got the 4 cage mount speakers mounted. It would be pretty weird angles if I tried to mount them to this bar or like somewhere else. And because I have a roof, it would have made an even bigger gap than it has right now, and it probably would have rattled or something, I don't know. But these are perfectly evenly spaced. I measured them from both sides and everything, and yeah, so this is kind of what it looks like. Hopefully you guys can see. It's kind of dark in here, but I've got them all 4 set up. I ran the wires underneath. I have it zip tied at every one, and I ran it in between the mounts to make it look pretty clean as possible. Kind of give you a walk around. Kind of like that. And then I ran all the wires down the cage right here, so it's nice and clean. I got them black zip tied so it's not real noticeable, but I did use blue zip ties that match the color for next to each speaker. I thought that'd be pretty cool. But then it comes down right here through the fender well, just down nice and clean, close to that cage, and then into the bottom right here, and then comes up through here. I don't have all this mocked up yet, but I mounted the amp right here. I was gonna mount it up here, but this was a perfect little spot right here for the amp. There's nothing underneath it. It's just a nice flat piece of plastic right there. Really easy to screw to. And then you can see I don't have to run much wire at all to hook the amp up to my battery. And then all I got to do is run the remote wire, and then the volume wire for this, which I'm gonna put up in the basically kind of like the center console area. But so far that's what I've got done. It took a while, actually. It took about 2.5 hours to do all this, clean like this, with all the measuring and just tightening down the speakers and making sure they're all facing the same. I got the 2 outer speakers facing up just a little bit compared to the 2 middle speakers facing basically just straight forward. Kind of just changed the sound waves a little bit. But as you can see, like looking down them, it's barely noticeable, but they're all, like, the 2 outer ones are even, the 2 middle ones are even, and they're all spaced the same. I went 4 inches from the edge of here to the edge of here, and then 16 to here, and I did it from the same side, did 4 inches and 16. So they're all even, and it should be pretty awesome. I know the sun's kind of glaring in right now, but yeah, I got a little bit more I can do, and then I gotta head off to work. But it'll be a couple days for me, a couple minutes for you guys, but right on. All right, everybody, so I got these pods to go on the roof. They come to fit a 5.5 or a 6.5 inch speaker, which they work out perfectly. These things are actually quite a bit bigger than they look online, but yeah, I got these, and as you can see, I drilled the holes to mount them to the roof already. What I'm gonna do is use some kind of like a gasket type thing, like weather stripping. That way I don't have any rattling or anything on the roof. So it's gonna have a little bit of weather stripping put here on the back side. But yeah, you have to draw and cut it out. And what I did was I used a Dremel, and we'll go over here. Sorry, the shop's a little bit in disarray, but as you can see, I got the speaker sitting in this one. I already cut it out, but I used a Dremel and just kind of traced it out, and then just cut it out, and then finalized it, basically, like fine-tuned it with a sheetrock knife, the hole. And the speakers come with a little piece of cardboard on the back side that has a hole in it that is the perfect size. So what I did was used it as a template. So basically you just kind of center it up, put it on there like that, and then, you know, kind of mark it out with a pencil or whatever, and then cut it out with your Dremel. Bam. All right, well, I'm gonna do the other 3, and then we'll get it mounted to the roof. Let's do this. Well, from the front, doesn't look much different, except for you can see those 4 speakers back there. Until, check that out. I got 6.5 mounted above the passenger and the driver, and this is where I'm going to put my deck. This is a marine deck housing, and you just flip this up and the deck goes in here. I still got to wire everything up, so I haven't put the deck in yet. That's probably going to be the last thing I do. I'm still waiting on a 4-way RCA cable as well. I got to figure out how to run all the wiring to the amp and everything from here without making it look super hokey. I'll figure it out though. But as you can see, I've got the hopefully you can see it, I've got the speaker wire for the speaker running out the back, so it's just going to be real short and go into there. Same thing on that side, but I'm going to install 2 more of those same speakers with smaller housings above the 2 rear seats as well. So this is definitely not for the faint of heart. I mean, just a little bit of work I've done with running all the wiring for these real nice and sleek down through the back right here, And I did have to move the amp, by the way. The seat wouldn't sit down all the way with it right there, so I had to move it right here. But I got the LED wiring ready to be hooked up. I got the speakers wired to the amp. All I need is the 4 RCA thing to come from the deck, and this will be ready with a remote wire too. And it has a volume control that I'm gonna hook up and probably put right here. That way you can turn those speakers up to a different volume level than the speakers above us. But this is coming together nice, but like I said, it's not for the faint of heart, because I'm about 6, maybe 7 hours deep, and I still have a ton of work to do. I've still got to wire everything. I've got to wire everything from the deck to all the speakers and everything. So got a lot of work left, but it's going to be worth it in the end, I hope. And I'm saving $1,000 by doing all of this myself and going with this system I picked up. All right, I'll show you guys when I'm done with the next stage, which is going to be these 2 pod speakers up here. All right, everybody. Sweet. Well, sorry about the noise in the background, but my wife is doing laundry. Ha ha ha. Anyways, before I go ahead and wrap up these speaker pods and everything, I wanted to point out a couple things. Now, when you lay your template on here, let me just grab it. So this came with the speaker. It was in there, like with the speaker and the packaging or whatever. And I just kind of made like a donut out of it, or a circle. And basically I just set it on here. I traced it on the inside right here, traced it with a pencil, and then I cut it out. But what you want to do when you're doing this application, if you choose to do something like this, make sure that when you're cutting it out with your Dremel, that you cut like either perfectly on the line or a little bit on the inside, because you don't want to take too much off. It's always good to cut not enough instead of too much, because you can always cut more out, but you can never add it back in most cases anyways. And that would be the case with this. But so since all 4 of mine are done now, I got my weather stripping on here too to prevent any rattles. And I do have to say, I picked this up at O'Reilly's. That's what we have here in California, O'Reilly's Auto Part. This weather strip tape is just awesome. It's got one sticky side, so it sticks, but this other side is just nice and pliable. It squishes down. It's kind of like memory foam. As you can see, I press on it and it stays there. It's really good. I don't have any rattles in the other ones. So this one's all ready to go on. All I'm gonna do is measure it out, put it up there, mark my holes with the pencil, drill them, and then put the speaker in here, and this will be done. Then I'll just have wiring and everything. I just kind of rough ran the wires and everything right now. I'm still waiting on a couple things to show up, but this is really getting down to the short strokes here. I'd say I'm probably 8 hours deep so far. I still got to do all the wiring for the CD deck. Well, it's not a CD deck, but for the deck that I'm going to be using, I got to run all the wiring for the speakers and everything. But like I said, $1,000 is definitely worth 8 to 10 hours of my time easily. I mean, even if I spent like, 15 hours on it, it would still, be well worth it to me. And knowing how all of this stuff is set up and everything is worth it too, because if I have any issues, I know where I ran everything. After this, I'm gonna run the remote wire and stuff, but I'm gonna pull all this center console stuff out. So I'm gonna have to take the front seats out, pull these out, and I'll show you kind of how to do that. It's not very hard at all, but yeah, I'm gonna get this speaker installed over there above the driver's side passenger or rear passenger, and yeah, we'll get all this stuff ran and buttoned up. All right, everybody, so we got all the speakers in. I got the wires ran. I've got all this stuff hooked up in here. but I still gotta hook it all up here. I gotta run a constant power, I've gotta run an ignition power, a ground, and then I gotta run the remote wire all the way back to the amp back there. So what I'm gonna do right now is pull out this whole center console from here all the way back, because I'm gonna run the wires in there. It's really easy. These kind of just pull up out of here, no big deal. All the boots for the shifter and those. I wanted to show you guys this real quick. You just zap these few bolts out of here, no big deal. I think there's 6 of them, but these kind of got me at first, so I'm just gonna kind of show you. So you just get a flathead under that, kind of pry it up, and then pull it out. Super simple. The first time I went to do that was actually kind of hard. I tried to look it up and nobody had a video kind of showing how to do it, because I guess it's kind of common knowledge or whatever. But I wasn't sure how to do it until I just kind of tried it. But that's how you do it. They come out super simple like that. And you're gonna want to reuse those, but there's a bunch of those. There's 2, 4, 6, 8, I think, total. So I'm gonna zip out these screws, pull the rest of those out, and then just take this whole center console system out so I can run my wires nice and clean and not have to see them. Alrighty, so as you can see, I just got wires hanging down everywhere, and I got the whole interior torn out pretty much. Go behind my little light here. But the reason for all of this, to pull out the center console and everything, is for that blue and red wire. Like, seriously. I mean, I could have ran it different and made it look kind of wonky, but I wanted to hide as much of the wiring as I can. So it just comes under here, goes around, and then plugs into the amp. And yeah, so that's for the amp. The other one's for the LED lights that are in the cage mount speakers right here. So pretty much I'm putting the center console back in. I'm gonna put the 2 front seats back in, and then finish wiring up the deck here. I ran the wiring here. I'll go over there. I know it's dark right now. I have spent hours and hours and hours on this thing, and it's hot and smoky. Complaints, complaints, complaints. So right here are all the wires I need to power up the amp and the deck. So here's the remote wire, the ground wire, the constant positive wire that saves your memory and everything, and then the auxiliary wire that turns on when you turn your key on. So the remote wires ran to the amp, which will turn the amp on when I turn the key on. That turns the deck on. And then here's the 3 wires, the 3 main wires I need. My 12-volt auxiliary, the yellow one is a constant 12-volt, and then the ground. And those, I know it's kind of dark, are just going to hook up right here on these 3 posts. Got my sprinklers going on, which means it's 8 o'clock at night, and I started on this thing 5 hours ago. And I probably still got another 2 hours left, I think. But I'm going to try and get this done tonight so that I don't have to work on it tomorrow. Yeah, so I'm going to get all these wires ran, hooked up, and hopefully on the next one I'll be able to turn the deck on. The rear 4 speakers won't work just yet because I'm still waiting on my 4-channel RCA cable to show up. But the 4 on the roof should work, and I'll be able to turn on the LED lights once I hook up the toggle switch. Alright everybody, so everything's hooked up now, the amp included. I've got all the seats back in except for that one. It's weird because it's a 4-channel amp, but all 4 speakers are working off 2 channels. Maybe I'm just rusty with like stereo stuff, but I thought I needed a 4-way, but all I needed was a 2-way RCA cable, which my wiring kit came with. So I ran it, and I didn't run it underneath. I actually ran it alongside the cage, and all you can really see is it right there going down that pillar. I tucked it up in there pretty good, and it matches the wiring for the speakers. Hopefully you can see that, which is blue, and this thing's blue, so yeah. But everything's hooked up, everything's works. It is very loud, actually. But one bummer about this is this speaker, even though it's brand new, it is blown. So I'm gonna have to replace that. I'll probably just buy a set of speakers, but everything else is working great. And for the price, I can get 2 good speakers to replace that one and the other one for about 50 bucks. So that's gonna put this entire stereo system in this thing to about I'd say 700. So I had a $900 savings. It took me about 12 hours to do all of it with the wiring and everything, but it all works. It sounds really good, and I am pumped on it. I'm stoked. The blue matches the dash lights, as you can see. The blue of the stereo matches the actual dash light, and everything just kind of came together good. I took my time and tried to run everything as neat as possible. All that wiring, you can see it from right here, but when you're sitting in it and when you're standing in front of it, you can't really see it. You just see a couple wires coming down, not bad at all, and you know, the wires that came out of the pillar here. But all in all, I'm happy. So yeah, that's gonna be like the stereo and the RZR. Unfortunately, due to copyright issues, I can't play music on it, or I can't monetize this video. But hopefully you guys thumb up this video. It was informative and or entertaining. If not, please thumb down. Check out the description, and we'll see you on the next video. Peace.